Beings. I'm your host, Indra Sahib.
And I am Mubarak Shah.
Welcome. How are you, brother?
Alhamdulillah, shukrillah. Well, how are you?
I'm okay.
Big jam pack from the last session.
Yeah, I think it's not enough from last session.
Yeah, not enough.
You
There's
remember,
so
I
much
think-
more that you had to cover. But
I think Al-Fadhil Mukarram Ustaz said that we need to have a Manhaj 2.0.
yeah, 2.2. Today is Manhaj 2.0.
So without further ado, I would like to introduce our audience and our listeners out there. Our beloved Ustaz Al-Fadhil Al-Mukarram Ustaz Anwar Hussein. Ahlan wa sahlan ya Ustaz.
Ahlan wa sahlan, jazakumullah khair for having me.
MashaAllah.
May Allah bless all of you.
Ameen.
Amin. How are you feeling, Ustaz?
Alhamdulillah, yani much better after some
Refreshments.
Yes.
Some traditional refreshments.
It's always good to start the podcast with a full stomach, you know.
Really think so?
Yeah. I believe that is the way to go.
Really? Itu bukan rasa tertidur.
So inshallah, I think today, Barak, I think
Yeah.
as what we have discussed from the past session, we are still talking about manhaj, you know.
Yeah.
But this for this episode specifically, we're going to touch on the hierarchy of the kitabs. We're gonna get
How do we approach this subject lah? You know, what is
Yes.
the steps that we should do and how we should do it?
have you have any knowledge on how what is the kitab that is involved in the learning of Aqeedah?
No, I think I haven't like went through a certain. I mean, we've read through books before, but having a proper like step by step, what should I go first? I haven't seen anything like that before.
Like proper guidance lah, like from the start to the more advanced books.
My experience has been no, I don't think so.
I think in the market there's a lot of now all these books are originally written in Arabic, right?
Yeah.
Now been translated in various language.
Yeah.
So people have access to
Yeah.
even the advanced book.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, so
From the beginner to advanced, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we are going to discuss on this topic, especially in this very episode. So maybe we want to pose a first question to our beloved Ustaz Anwar Hussein.
How do we start about this?
Yeah, how can a person without any knowledge start with the path of learning Aqeedah? Because they have no they grow up with no background experience of or even exposure learning on all this. So how can they themselves guide themselves to the right path?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. It is important for us again, you need to understand the importance of methodology, manhaj, and this we mentioned in the last episode about the pillars of knowledge and the difference between knowledge and information. In the Islamic tradition, our scholars they differentiate between what is knowledge and what is information. So in order for knowledge to be knowledge, there must be 5 pillars, and one of it is the methodology, or nowadays we call it the syllabus. So in order for us to benefit from a particular knowledge, then we need to understand how to go about learning that science or that subject, and we have to do it in stages. We have to do it in stages. So the knowledge of fiqh has its own methodology and syllabus. The knowledge of hadith, the knowledge of tafsir, and all other knowledges, and they have this path, and basically, and the books that are written that are recommended by the scholars. Likewise, in the knowledge of Aqeedah, we have a manhaj and we have a syllabus. When we speak about a beginner to learn this particular knowledge, it is important to look into the books of Al-Imam Sanusi. It is important to look at the books of Al-Imam Sanusi. Maybe I think what I'll do, I'll just give a brief introduction about why Al-Imam Sanusi.
Yeah.
Why is Imam Sanusi important in this stage of the beginning stage, the stage where we are building our foundation. You see, Al-Imam Sanusi, and he was born in the year 830 Hijriya. So he lived about 500 years ago. He was born in 830, passed away in 895 in Tilmisan. Tilmisan is a place in present day in Algeria. And during his time, he found out that his community, they have difficulty in learning this knowledge. So books like the Sharh of Al-Maqasid of Al-Imam Taftazani, the book of Sharh Mawaqif of Al-Imam Iji. These are very, very tough books. So he find that his community is struggling to learn this knowledge. So he felt this obligation to distill any knowledge, to summarize any knowledge to a level where even children can begin to study these books.
Interesting.
So he has this, this vision on how to build this ladder of learning. So I felt that Al-Imam Sanusi he has done the job for us actually.
Interesting.
This is where we find many Malay scholars over the past hundreds of years. They are benefiting from the books of Al-Imam Sanusi. And they found that the books of Al-Imam Sanusi are very important, especially for those who are in this Malay archipelago. To suit the beginners and the approach, and to make it simple for people, for them to have a methodology in learning from the beginning until the end. So Al-Imam Sanusi, what he did was, he wrote books from what is known as the Al-Hafida or Mufida. Sometimes it is called Hafida, sometimes it's called Mufida because of the difference in the manuscripts. And this is considered to be the first book, the first kitab. After that, he wrote Asura, the second book. And then after that, we have the Barahin, which is a famous one. That is the third in line. And then he wrote another book that is called Al-Wusta, and then Al-Kubra. So these are the five main books of Al-Imam Sanusi in the knowledge of Aqeedah. He wrote Al-Barahin first. He wrote Barahin. And then what happened was, there was an old man, one of his students, his father has reached an old age. So he went to Al-Imam Sanusi and he informed Imam Sanusi about the difficulty of learning Barahin. Although Barahin is considered to be like an intermediate book, but he was asking Al-Imam Sanusi to summarize Barahin. So he wrote any surah. He wrote a surah. And then he found out that the children in the madrasas, last time they call it the kutab. They call it the kutab. Children learning Aqeedah.
How old were those guys? Like
kutab are basically children, and they last time they taking children from the age of 7 years old, 8 years old.
Oh, the primary
This
age.
This is the time where they memorize the Quran. Where they memorize the Quran. So at the same time also, while memorizing the Quran, they will have certain subjects. So they will learn a bit of fiqh, they will learn a bit of Aqeedah, and so on. So he found out that the children have difficulty to understand surah. So he wrote the book Al-Hafida. And then what he did was he wrote another 2 books as the Muqaddimah. As though Imam Sanusi is telling us that before you go into these books, these 5 books, so you have these 2 books that is considered to be the Muqaddimah. So one of the books he wrote is Al-Muqaddimat. He named the book Al-Muqaddimat. So in this particular book, he explained about terminologies, just terminologies.
Is it kind of a opener for learners, Ustaz?
Oh yes. This is the first kitab.
So before they embark onto the more advanced kitab, this is like the
no,
opener.
not before they embark to the advanced kitab. Before they embark into
any kitab.
The first kitab that is Hafida.
Hafida, okay.
Which is before they even learn Aqeedah, basically.
So they will go through this
the Muqaddimat. Yes. So he wrote this book as the Muqaddimah, because meaning of Muqaddimah basically it is the introduction. So before you study Aqeedah, you have to learn this Muqaddimah. So it is like the door to the knowledge of Aqeedah.
The terminologies and
yes. So in this Muqaddimat, he wrote a few things. He wrote on terminologies. What is rational judgment? What is empirical judgment? What is a Sharia law? Actions of human beings. Whether actions of human beings are created by Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala or deposited power, as what is mentioned by the Mu'tazila. Anwa'u shirk. Types of shirk, types of bid'ah, types of innovation, what is a bid'ah, and all these things. So he wrote this Muqaddimat. The second book he wrote is a book in logic, mantiq. So he summarized any knowledge in your mantiq in the second book.
What's the objective of that book, Mantik? Like, what is the objective?
Okay, knowledge and your mantiq, our scholars and they mentioned that it is the base of every knowledge. Before we start learning knowledge, we need to understand logic. We need to understand. We need to understand logic. If you look at the books of logic, there are two main chapters in the field of mantiq. We have the field of the tasawwurat and the tasdiqat. Tasawwurat teach you about the importance of definition. Whenever we come across words, we have to be careful, and we have to understand the definition. What actually definitions meant. So, for example, if a person speaks to you on the knowledge of fiqh, so we have to understand what is the definition of fiqh, so that we do not make mistake in thinking. So, when we study knowledge, there will be terminologies. There will be terminologies. For example, even if we study chemistry or we study physics, there will be terminologies. So, if we understand the knowledge and your mantiq, then we will understand the importance of learning the definitions. So, by learning any definitions, we do not go wrong in our argumentation. In argumentation, and also to understand the flow of information.
So, in other words, it's basically like for us to make sure we can think correctly lah.
Yes.
So that we can be able to process the information correctly, approach things correctly.
Yes, correct.
So even before we go into like studying like the actual Aqeedah, we must have the, for example, the terminologies.
Yeah.
Must make sure we have the terminologies, and the next one also must have the proper flow of how to think.
Yes.
It's very interesting, is that like this is something like no one really thinks about.
Yeah.
Like, how do I correctly think? You know?
that doesn't happen in our daily life,
Yeah,
I mean, in most people lah.
Yeah.
They don't react logically. They don't decide logically.
Yeah.
This is happening in our daily life.
Yeah.
I mean, in our community lah.
Yeah.
There is a saying by Imam Ghazali, and I'm amazed by this saying. I posted in my Facebook page about 2-3 months ago.
I see.
I read this words of Imam Ghazali 15 years ago, but I cannot understand what he's saying. He was saying, Imam Ghazali was saying, "Man lam yatamantaq fala siqata li kalamihi." Yani those who doesn't understand logic, mantiq, you cannot trust his words. So when I came across this 15 years ago, like it struck in my mind, what is this mantiq? What actually he's speaking about? It seems like a very important subject.
Yeah.
And if you don't have this, you cannot be trusted in your.
It's like a skill set.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like something that a person must possess.
I think it's like a survival thing, man. It's like it's like literally like how to eat. If you think about it, it's so important. You cannot anyhow eat things. You have to properly think. And it was like think. You were saying like this is the part when they talk about mantik. How old were they when they studied about this mantik before they go into the subject? Like how old were they roughly in Imam Sanusi time?
Okay, during the time of Imam Sanusi, his book and Mukhtasar Mantiq, actually it is like a summary of Mantiq. So he make it like in a way easy for children to learn. So it is not like Mantiq where
for advanced learners.
For advanced learners. So what he did was he summarized knowledge.
Broad strokes, I was there. Broad strokes, yeah.
I think this is the important thing, and we have to emphasize in our Islamic education.
Yeah.
To make any mantiq as the first few knowledge that a person has to learn.
Yeah.
When you study mantiq then you begin to realize how important any mantiq is. Yeah. And what you call it, knowledge of mantiq has a relation to all knowledges. This is the beauty of the mantiq. It has a connection to all form of knowledge, whether you are speaking about Islamic knowledge or you are speaking about
science,
maths, what you call it, other knowledges.
Yeah.
Because all knowledge are based on proposition. All knowledge are based on proposition.
Yeah.
And knowledge of mantiq is basically giving you the tools how to understand proposition.
Yes.
How to understand definition, how to differentiate between a good definition and a bad definition, and how to do syllogism, in terms of argumentation.
Yeah. Is it like Aristotle rhetoric?
Aristotle is the founder actually. Aristotle. Even if you go back into the books of mantiq, and our scholars, this is what they said. They said that he began with Aristotle because he laid the foundations of logic. in his organon. And he got a few series in your books, and that is called the organon. You can buy it in Amazon, and it's printed.
It's interesting.
I think,
but it's tough. It's tough. So our scholars, and what they did was they benefited from Aristotle, and they remove, certain things that has got to do with some Greek and philosophy.
Yes.
Because back in the days, during the times of Aristotle and after Aristotle, their books in logic mixed with some stories of Greek gods.
Mythology and that kind of things.
Yes. So that is why Al-Imam Nawawi, for example, he said learning mantiq is haram. But what Al-Imam Nawawi meant, what Ibn Salah is meant, and what they meant is that logic that is mixed with this, what you call it, Greek and philosophy, because it mixes with their religion, with some many of their what you call
Belief
it,
systems, their belief systems.
their belief
yeah,
system.
it deviates from our belief system.
Yeah.
So what the Muslims did, when they face this knowledge mantiq, they take what is good and remove what is bad.
Yeah, like a filter, was that?
Yeah,
You say,
they
like,
filter.
They take the logic and the whatever was Aristotle, they put it into the filter of Islam, and whatever that is left in the filter, you use it,
And
But-
then not only that, they bring verses of the Quran. What you call it as evidence on for example
logic.
on qiyas, on this syllogism. They bring, for example, verses from the Quran that speaks about what you call it, the flow of argument.
Yeah.
So there are many examples in it today.
And the root is still Islamic lah. we say.
Yeah. I think for mantiq, right? This mantiq topic, I think we can be on a
Very
I think 2 or 3 episodes.
Yeah,
Solely
man.
we talk about mantiq,
Yeah,
man. This
yeah.
the vastness of this topic is there for us to discuss further.
Yeah.
Right. So it's very interesting, that just now when you mentioned that our daily life all involved on logic.
Yeah.
And we need, and like our father Ustaz mentioned, that we need this knowledge as a basis for those learners out there. So talking about learning the Aqeedah, Ustaz, man, definitely those who want to learn the Aqeedah, they have to refer to kitabs.
Yeah.
They have to learn this kitab from
a teacher.
From not just a teacher, man, a trusted
Correct.
teacher that can guide them.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of, not say all, but I mean maybe a minority of them, right, who might misguide certain people with certain things.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
we're in an age of so much technology.
Yes,
I mean, this social media, we see so many of this
So
stuff.
we need trusted asatizahs to really guide us on the path of Aqeedah.
Yeah.
So what is the most, what's the hierarchy of all these kitab, Ustaz? Coming from the basic to the advanced stage.
As what I mentioned, we have the Muqaddimat of Imam Sanusi. This is the door into the knowledge, and of course the knowledge of mantiq that teaches us how to understand arguments. And then comes the book Al-Hafidah. The book Hafidah is a very simple, concise book that is summarized by Al-Imam Sanusi from a series of books. So it is like a book that is filtered, that is filtered again and again. So this is the book that is suitable for everyone. A beginner, if you bring someone who doesn't know anything, about Aqeedah, he can learn this kitab. So I feel it is important. Many people over the centuries benefited from this book. But strangely, this book is not known in our society. If you ask around Hafidah of Imam Sanusi, many people might not know. And it is important. It is important, as a beginner in the beginning, to enter into the field of Aqeedah.
Can you give us an example of that? Like how, like one of the things that Imam Sanusi mentions in his book that we can benefit from.
Okay, Imam Sanusi, if you look in his books, when he speak about Aqeedah, he always go to the 2 elements. Number 1 is to understand the obligations, meaning what are the things as a Muslim we are obliged to know and to believe. So this is the first part. So he will lay down, he will make it simply. He say point number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. So he will say that as a Muslim, this is what you have to believe. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. And then the beauty of Imam Sanusi, he will bring the evidences. And these are rational evidences. Rational evidences. Today, we Muslims, and we are in need any of this because we are living in a time where we are bombarded with a lot of ideologies. So without learning evidences, it will be tough for you to protect yourself from the onslaught of ideologies. So for example, today people have a lot of doubts, even in the existence of Allah. Today when you have Muslims and he can be praying 5 times a day, but he has doubt whether Allah exists or does not exist. Na'udzubillah.
Yeah.
Because he has friends who are atheists, he has friends who are do not have any religion or worshipping any idols or all this, and he's just confused. He might be in doubt, and when people ask him what is the evidence, and you believe in God, what is the evidence that God exists? If a person doesn't learn about these evidences, then straight away there will be doubt.
Yeah.
So Al-Imam Sanusi, what he did was when he speaks, for example, on the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he will mention the evidence. Okay, this is the rational evidence.
Can you give us one example, Ustaz? The one
Okay, the evidence that he speaks about, we call it the Kalam cosmological evidence. We have this term that is called the Kalam cosmological evidence, and even the West, they are amazed by this. And if you look in YouTube, some scientists are speaking about the Kalam cosmological evidence. They are doing a podcast on Kalam cosmological evidence, and even some other faith are using our our
materials,
to prove that God exists. So Al-Imam Sanusi, for example, he begins by speaking about the universe. He begins by speaking about the universe, and he look at the universe. The universe is changing. So everything that change is contingent, and everything that is contingent has a beginning.
What is contingent, sir? Just for everyone.
Contingent is something that accepts existence and non-existence. It can accept existence. For example, now we are in existence. 100 years ago, we are non-existent. So we exist after non-existence. So we are a contingent being.
Meaning, example, like we only exist because of our parents, because our grandparents, they are the reasons that we came into existence.
No. Contingent meaning, the definition of contingent, in the Islamic perspective, the word is huduth, al-huduth. It means something that accepts existence, and it can also accept non-existence.
Okay.
So for example, we are a contingent being. Why? Because we accept existence, and we also accept non-existence. What does it mean? And we accept existence. Now we are in existence. 100 years ago, we are non-existence. 100 years later, also we will be non-existence. So our existence, the nature of our existence, is from non-existence. We began from non-existence to existence. So anything that is preceded by non-existence is a contingent being. So the universe, everything that we see, even this cup and this this bottle and this table, human beings, animals, the sun, the moon, all these things are contingent beings.
Yeah.
And the Quran speaks about the evidence. Why is contingent? We have, for example, the story of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he was sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to his people were worshipping idols. So they believe that idols are divine. So Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam asked them, told them that look at the sun. The sun is big. This is my Lord. He said, this is my Lord. He said to his people, this is my Lord. But then he said that when the night comes, the sun cannot be seen anymore. So he said, this cannot be my God. Because God he cannot be something that change. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not there. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught us that anything that accept changes is contingent. Anything that accept changes is contingent. Even the movement, for example, we are moving, sometimes we are moving, sometimes we are not moving. So this change, it shows that our movement is contingent. Because our movement accepts non-existence and existence. So Al-Imam Sanusi, when he speaks about the Kalam cosmological movement, the Kalam cosmological argument, he begins by speaking about understanding the nature of existence. The universe, for example, that it accepts existence and non-existence, and its existence and its mumkinul wujud, that is contingent, and everything that is contingent has a beginning, because it is preceded by non-existence, And everything that has a beginning must have an originator. Must have an originator. And the one who brought it into existence. So this is some of the arguments that he used to prove that God exists. Because if the universe has a beginning, there must be an originator. We call it the originator in Arabic, and we call it al-muhdith, the creator, the one who brought it into existence.
It's very interesting. This is like basically the subjects that we talk like very famous like physicists in around the world, talking like Stephen Hawking and all these kind of guys. They are talking about all of these issues. And but our scholars, I think you were mentioning Imam Sanusi, talked about it 1,000 years ago. It's like this topic is already
It was 500 years ago.
500 years ago, and it was like already mentioned and discussed about. And then you also, I remember you were mentioning the last time about how like this subject of Aqeedah and this understanding all of this cosmological arguments has been like in our community for very long, Indra. Remember, like Ustaz was mentioning, like 300 years ago, this topic was already used and like well discussed about in our community. Like, how come we lost that? Was that like how did we lose that?
You see, when we look at the history in the Malay archipelago, what happened during the last 300 years, 400 years, there is this threat of colonization. So when colonization came to this part of the world, the Muslim scholars in this area, they felt the importance to preserve their Aqeedah, to preserve the Islamic faith, because they understood that if you can break the Islamic faith and you break Islam, because Islam rests on Aqeedah. The religion of Islam, the foundation, that's what we mentioned in the last episodes. We mentioned that the connection of Aqeedah, the Islamic theology or Islamic creed, to the other Islamic sciences, it is the parable of the foundation. So when they felt the threat from outside coming in and can influence any certain ideas that are contrary to the Islamic belief, for example, so they felt the importance to preserve this knowledge. So that is when they start writing a lot. And they, as what I mentioned earlier, they look into the books of Imam Sanusi, because I felt that maybe it struck in their mind that Imam Sanusi have done the work for us. And if you look at the life of Imam Sanusi, it is the same thing, because Imam Sanusi, when he looked at his community, he found out that many of people in his community have difficulty to learn this knowledge of Aqeedah, because there are many books that have been written, but they are tough that speaks about philosophical issues and all these things. So the common people have difficulty to find the connection. Imam Sanusi, he simplified that knowledge, as what we mentioned. So likewise, the Malay scholars in this region, they look at the works of Imam Sanusi and they translate to the Malay language, and they summarize it further. And so many of the books of Imam Sanusi, and they expand on it and so on and so forth. So this the books of Imam Sanusi, as what we mentioned, in terms of syllabus, in terms of manhaj, it is like a stepping stone. So he crafted his books like a stepping stone, and every book has the connection. So if you read Hafidah and you read Barahin, you straight away you can see the connection. It's just like an expansion, but the gist is there. So if you start learning any of his books, then you will find that there is some consistency in his in what he's saying and what he's trying to emphasize.
MashaAllah. I think there's a lot of thing that we can be very proud of from our scholars, Barak.
For sure, man.
I mean, they have laid out the foundation, not just lay out the foundation, they also have simplified for common folks like us.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So I think the blessing behind all this is that common folks like us, we can embark on learning Aqeedah in the most simplified manner.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
For sure, man. I think there's something that, given like our situation right now, as I was saying, there's so many perspective and understanding in this world we have today, having this at least a basic
correct.
understanding about what this entire religion is about. Or not even like to protect yourself,
Yeah.
Like not protect yourself, also to have at least some meaning in your life, knowing why are you here, This is what Aqeedah answers, right? Like why you exist, how you exist, what you should say,
Talking about basic, right? I mean, can a person from like the most beginner stage, Ustaz, straight away jump to a very advanced kitab in Aqeedah and learn from it?
No.
Is it advisable for them to do it?
No. You see what will happen is that they will back off after some time.
What do you mean by they will back off? They will drain out or they will give out?
Yeah. Because you see, knowledge in some books in Aqeedah is very, very tough.
Oh, I see.
Very, very tough. It's like reading any philosophy for someone who doesn't even know anything, for example. So when it comes into the higher books, normally people, the word we use, shut off. Like we say, when you read something and you cannot understand, you will come into a situation where you just put it aside. You see, there are books. There are books that are translated. For example, one Harvard professor, he translated Tahafutul Falasifa of Al-Imam Ghazali.
Wow.
And this is a tough book. Tahafutul Falasifa. I mean, reading in the Arabic language is a challenge. What about any translation? So maybe it is designed for people who have already reached there, in a sense that they can benefit from that. But for beginners, this is the thing, because if we do not have this methodology and we do not have this environment of learning, it is almost impossible for us to access books of Imam Taftazani, for example, like Sharh al-Maqasid. Today, simply, I can say with confidence, Sharh al-Maqasid, if you can find someone who understands Sharh al-Maqasid, mashallah, this is Khair Kabir. You say this is the books of Al-Mawaqif, of Al-Iji, and so on and so forth. So, especially in the knowledge of Aqeedah, it's like in fiqh, for example, if a person straight away jump into Tuhfatul Muhtaj of Ibn Hajar, so he will not benefit anything. He will be just he will, at the end of the day, you will ask yourself, what is the author speaking about?
What am I doing here is a better question. I think one thing
I regret.
why did I buy this book?
and then it will shut people off, in a sense that people will think, this is so difficult,
inaccessible,
just like Arabic language, for example. If a person wants to begin learning Arabic, you see, the advice of our ulama, do not begin with nahu. Do not begin with the grammar, because we shut people off. And this is what happened.
Yeah, correct.
It's like maths,
people thought, like maths.
Yeah, you primary school, and then you just go into like physics of like in university. You'll be like, this looks like numbers, but I don't know what this is. I think it's like that.
But talking about translated text, right?
But also one thing more important is that some people might read it and then they cannot understand it, but there will be some who and they read it and they think they understand it, and then they will come up with their own understandings and and then they give.
Do you think they are very dangerous?
For sure, man.
And for themselves, towards themselves.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the most dangerous thing is that they're endangering themselves, but the problem with this misguiding people,
the way they approach this,
is that they're also misguiding people around them also.
Oh,
right?
Yes,
and if especially give them the access to the kind of things. Yeah.
Wow. So I think talking about kitab, I think also it's important for a person to know their limits.
Yeah.
Right. Not knowing where they stand in terms of embarking themselves on knowledge itself. Right, because if you are primary school level, then keep yourself in the primary stage. Do not advance in the tertiary stage, right?
Yeah.
So talking about this, Ustaz, definitely we want to go into our next question, where we want to discuss more on the manhaj, right? Manhaj, on the madhab of the Aqeedah itself. So people want to know, right? There's two forms of madhab in the Aqeedah itself. So how can they understand? And because they are beginners, so which one I should follow, right? Al-Ash'ari or Al-Maturidi? That kind of approach. So maybe you can enlighten us on that, yeah, Ustaz.
Okay, pertaining to the madhab of Ash'ari and Maturidiyah, there are not much differences in between these two schools of thought. They are the same, actually, but only they differ on maybe about 13 points. So if you can master those 13 points, you are both Ash'ari and Maturidi. So that is why this thing about whether you are Ash'ari or Maturidi, it doesn't really it's not like something that is very crucial, like a big difference between the two. People ask, for example, is Al-Imam Taftazani, is he Ash'ari or Maturidi? Actually, he's both, and in a sense, like he mastered everything. He mastered the Ash'ari madhab, and with all the evidences, and at the same time, when he speaks about the differences between the two schools of thought, and with the evidences and so on and so forth.
MashaAllah.
And nowadays, we have scholars, like Sheikh Said Fuda, for example, and he wrote books to explain more about those differences and so on. And those differences are not fundamental differences. It's just differences, and some of the differences are linguistic and differences.
Choice of words, is that?
Choice of words. So they are differences in the branches, not in the usul, not in the fundamentals. But what is important for us to understand that both the Ash'ari and Maturidiyah, they are the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, what you call it, which we inherit from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it is important for us to understand. At the end of the day, names are not important. What is important is the content. Meaning, when you learn Aqeedah, for example, based on the Aqeedah of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, then you are contented that you have learned what is brought by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because Al-Imam al-Ash'ari, as what I mentioned in the previous episode, and Al-Imam al-Maturidi, what they did was they compiled knowledge. They compiled knowledge because at the time of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, knowledge is not compiled. They memorized knowledge. The companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they memorized everything that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told them. So these imams came at a later stage. What they did was they compiled that knowledge, because when there are differences and when people start to speak about things which is not correct, they feel that they have to compile something as a syllabus.
Make things clear.
Make things clear. This is the right one. This is not the right one. Correct. This is the evidences, and based on the Quran, based on the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So basically, Al-Imam al-Ash'ari, the founder of the Ash'ari madhab, and Al-Imam Abu Mansur al-Maturidi, this basically in what they did. They came out with books and methodologies. So this methodology is adopted by the scholars who came after them. So scholars who came after them expand on what they mentioned and added and summarize. So you have Al-Imam Ghazali who came, Al-Imam al-Baqilani, Al-Imam al-Haramain, all these big imams in theology. They came after Al-Imam Abu Hasan al-Ash'ari. They refine the books of Al-Imam Abu Hasan. They wrote their own books, and they explain further what is the creed of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, which we have inherited from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So today, when we learn those books, we are learning the Aqeedah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is important for us to understand, because the confusion that is happening even in our society. People thought that these imams came with something new. Yeah, they do not come in with something new. They only make things simple for us, so that we are able to appreciate, we are able to understand where they are coming from, where this knowledge is coming from, and what are the evidence, and so on and so forth. So going back into Al-Imam al-Sanusi, Al-Imam al-Sanusi, he, as what I mentioned earlier, he refined the madhab. So here we are speaking about madhab. So let me explain the difference between Al-Imam al-Ash'ari, Al-Imam Abu Hasan al-Ash'ari, and the madhab of Ash'ari. So we mentioned that Ahlus Sunnah, we have the Ash'ari and Maturidiyah. Al-Imam Abu Hasan al-Ash'ari, and he came, he wrote many books, of course, and he has his methodology and all these things, adopted by the scholars who came after him. There are many thousands ulama who came after Al-Imam Abu Hasan al-Ash'ari. So the scholars who came after him, they rectify certain things which they feel has to be rectified. And then came other scholars that does ijtihad and explain in their books about the agreed upon arguments within that madhab. So when we speak about madhab of Ash'ari, we are speaking about thousands of ulama. Thousands of ulama who have refined. So Al-Imam Abu Hasan al-Ash'ari laid the foundation. We can say he laid the foundation by his books, and those scholars who came after him refined the knowledge further.
They added on.
So this is the difference between Al-Imam al-Ash'ari and the madhab al-Ash'ari. So when we speak about madhab, we have to understand that we are speaking about an ummah. Because if you look in the Islamic history, till today, our ulama, we can name the giants of Islam in all fields of knowledge. You will find either the Ash'ari or the Maturidi. Ada the Ash'ari. I mentioned this in the last episode.
Yes.
Most of the Hanafites are Maturidi. Most any of the Shafi'i, Maliki, Hanbali, they are Ash'ari. Most of them. So they are either Ash'ari or they are Maturidi. So when we speak about madhab, this is what we're speaking about. طيب. Al-Imam Imam As-Sanusi, he refined this madhab. So here we're speaking about madhab.
MashaAllah.
Tamam? So he refined this madhab. Just like we say, for example, Al-Imam An-Nawawi in fiqh Shafi'i. Al-Imam An-Nawawi, when he came and what he did was, he refined the madhab of Imam Shafi'i. And this is, subhanAllah, and it is the miracle of Al-Imam An-Nawawi, because he came in at the time where there are so many books and he have written. Our scholars in madhab Shafi'i, and he has written maybe thousands of books. So Al-Imam An-Nawawi, and he came and he summarized any of those books.
MashaAllah.
He summarized any of those books and he refined any of those books. Until today, we are learning the books of Al-Imam Nawawi.
Very interesting.
You see, there are certain ulama, there are certain scholars which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them this speciality. So in the Aqeedah of Al-Sunnah, in the Ash'ari, madhab of Ash'ari, Al-Imam Sanusi, and is considered
is one of them.
is considered to be the Imam, yani, who came and refined this madhab. So he refined the madhab, and he goes all the way down to even a 7-year-old can learn. Can you imagine?
MashaAllah.
So he wrote Hafida, Surah, and then Barahin, and then Al-Wusta, and then Al-Kubra. So this is stepping stones, that's what we mentioned. So he basically wrote in his books to explain the madhab. Meaning like if a person wants to learn what is the Aqeedah of Ahl-Sunnah, what is the Aqeedah of the Prophet ﷺ, that is brought by the Prophet ﷺ. So this is the books of Al-Imam Sanusi. So if you can bring a person who's zero, who doesn't know anything, a person who just entered into Islam, tamam, he can start any learning. The books of Al-Imam Sanusi. And then after he complete one book, he goes into the other step. He goes to the other step. He goes to the other step. Then he has built any strong any foundation.
This is very interesting, Ustaz. I think, Barak, I think we can open up for discussion here. Like, when talking about books that we can relate to, right? I think, do you really think that we need to start with book that is not just basic, but something that is easy to relate to?
One thing, one common theme that I've been listening from Ustaz saying from all the different ulama he has mentioned is that the scholars, they made it relevant to their time.
Oh, yeah, correct.
You realize that they like almost renewed it to fit to their people of their time and their age, And I think like this is something that we also are in need today. And then Imam Sanusi gave us, a beautiful layout that you should be able to accommodate from the beginning stage. And I think one thing is how can we use Imam Sanusi's way to contextualize and be able to make this relevant in the forms of language, in form of challenges of our time.
You see, what is important, I feel, you see, the books of Al-Imam Sanusi, it serves like a fortress. It serves like a fortress. Meaning every Muslim, and he should know certain things to protect himself. So the first thing I think it is about protection. So we are living in a time where in a time of confusion. Muslims are confused even within their own deen, their own religion. Not to speak about other ideologies outside of Islam, even within the Islamic faith. Today, a person look at Facebook, for example, somebody posted something. Somebody posted, for example, you cannot pray in a mosque where there is a qabr. Your prayer will not be valid and you are mushrik, for example, because you are worshipping that qabr. And then he goes into one of the mosques in Singapore and he find that inside that mosque there is a cemetery. There is a maqam. So people becomes confused. People, for example, they look at YouTube, somebody was preaching, saying that Ash'ari kufar. The whole madhab, we speak about all the scholars thousands of ulama, Ali Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, Al-Imam al-Nawawi, all these are Ash'ari. They are Ash'ari. Suddenly, you hear on YouTube, someone was preaching with a good accent, very, very nice clothing, or maybe he's standing at a mimbar, and then he make any disclaim. So, if a person, for example, he doesn't have this knowledge, he'll be confused.
Macam lalang, was that like you just go left and right wherever?
This just what you call it, and these are real examples. This is happening now. You see, so we can talk about a lot of things that is happening in our society in our daily lives. The thing that we find in postings and in Facebook, in Twitter, in like now and then, you will be exposed. You'll be exposed.
That's I was watching an article. They say was that like every day you are being promoted at least 10,000 adverts every day.
Wow.
Which means 10,000 ideologies.
Exposed people.
You watch, you pass by your phone, you pass by, you took the bus,
conscious
you drive,
subconscious,
10,000 images, adverts has been like put through your mind every day.
So imagine all these things that are coming at you. So the first stage is to protect.
Yeah. Protect what is that? So like, what do you mean protect?
Okay, you see, the thing is this. If a person he doesn't have any strong foundation in Islam, he might be influenced by some of the things that he see or hears. He might not be convinced. He might leave Islam.
Unknowingly, is that possible?
Unknowing, or he will have doubt, for example.
Yes.
He will have doubt. Some people, for example, they are Muslims and because their parents are Muslim, they say, I cannot leave Islam and because, my tradition, my great-great-grandfather are all Muslims, this is my pride. Some people are like that, but they don't believe maybe in certain things so they do not have any strong foundation. So meaning they are not protected in that sense. So they are easily influenced by anything that they hear and they see. They cannot make that differentiation. So now when we ask the question, how do you make that differentiation? What is the balance you need to have for you to differentiate between what is the truth and what is false? So there must be some foundation. This is the protection we're speaking about. Because all these things are coming at you. If you say 10,000 things are coming at you daily, you need to have something, some principles within you that you are able to filter this information. Okay, this is correct. This is not correct. This is against Islam. Okay, this is within our Islam, or this is khilaf. Okay, our scholars have some differences on this issue, or this issue is very dangerous. It can make a person apostate. Okay, this thing is dangerous, but doesn't make you apostate, but it is an innovation. So what is the benchmark, or what is the balance that you need to have in order for you to do that?
The principles, as we say.
The principles. So this is where I believe, and this is an obligation. Every Muslim need to learn the Aqeedah in a way that he reach a certain level where he is confident, and you can put him anywhere. You can put him anywhere, whether you put him in a particular group, in the middle of a particular group, and who are even anti-Islam or whatever.
He will be able to survive.
But he will have these fundamentals to protect him. Meaning he will be convinced with his religion no matter what. So he's like a strong tree that cannot be shaken. So this is the first stage. The first stage is about protection, because this is the state that we are living today. So we have to protect ourselves. So the books of Al-Imam Sanusi, as what I mentioned, maybe if we speak about the Muqaddimats, Hafidah, Surah, and Surah. Once a person reach Barahin, this is the minimum to me. At least he will have that strength. To me, is Barahin. Minimum. So if a person he can study Barahin and appreciate Barahin and understood Barahin, this is the minimum requirement.
I think what mashallah, sir, thank you for that. The objective, whatever I gather from whatever you're saying, is that the whole objective of whatever we are getting at this Aqeedah is to be able to understand your meaning of why you're existing in this world anyway. Like, why are you here in the first place? Your meaning of life.
You say that? That's only a part of it. That's only a part of it. When we understand the existence of God, when we understand the existence of Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala, and we understand about why prophets and messengers are sent, and we understand any revelation, then we will understand what is our purpose.
Our purpose. So the Aqeedah gives us this basis of Aqeedah you were mentioning, but it gives us that concrete purpose of why we exist,
Yes.
And then we will not be diverted to other ideologies that might give us wrong perspective that will affect our purpose in our life.
Yes,
Right,
yes,
Ustaz?
yes. And you see, knowledge is one thing, conviction is another thing.
Yes.
A person and he can read about Islam and he can know what is the purpose of life, but he might not be convinced. So, but if a person learn any Aqeedah in this way, in a proper manner, then he not only he will understand, but he will be convinced and he reach a level of conviction, yaqeen, the level of conviction, and this is very important. To come into that state.
Ustaz, just one more thing I just want to highlight maybe. It's like, what about people who have doubts? You know, Ustaz? Like, I mean, in our time and age, I think one of the things I realize is that people are afraid to ask questions. They are afraid that sometimes they feel like their questions are
Maybe they shy lah, bro. They shy.
Yeah, maybe they shy.
Maybe they shy,
Sometimes
yeah.
also they feel like, I don't think the Ustaz can answer my questions also. You know?
They have doubt with the Ustaz.
No, I mean they doubt in like I don't think Islam has the answer for these kind of questions. You know?
Okay.
Like you know, like how should these people and I've also Ustaz, unfortunately I've heard like personally like people like when people who have doubts and they go to some
Other faith.
no, they go to some of our scholars sometimes and then they don't attend to these questions. You know?
Oh.
So it's like on a problems of whatever we're facing. How should person who is having like doubts and difficulties in like living in our age approach this thing? You know, like what would your advice be to them?
The reason and doubts is ignorance. When a person has doubts and he on things and that are related to faith, it is out of ignorance. So in order for that person to break himself from the doubts, he has to seek the appropriate knowledge that can answer those doubts. So as long as the doubts are not answered, the doubts will be there.
Yeah.
So what he needs to do, and he needs to find a path and a way on how to gain that knowledge that can clear any of those doubts.
Yeah.
So the knowledge of Aqeedah is what you call it is profound. It is based on clear evidences, rational evidences, and these strong and rational evidences will clear any doubts.
If you are sound-minded, sane, you can think logically and rationally, and you can follow some sort of.
No,
like,
most people are very emotional, bro.
You see, this is where logic comes in.
Yeah.
You see, this is where logic comes in. You see, when you study mantiq, even arguments and you have different levels. Some arguments are based on it is skeptical. Some arguments and are based on doubts. Some arguments are based on conviction. Some arguments and are based on the higher possibility. You see, the thing about Islamic faith, the Islamic fundamentals, and we need to understand this. So we are proud and need to say that every single fundamentals within the Islamic faith is based on evidences that are based on conviction, yaqeen. The evidences that are behind our fundamentals, Islamic and fundamentals, is not based on 98%, 90%,
50-50.
88%. It is based on conviction, yaqeen. So this is the level of strength of the evidences and within when we speak about the Islamic and fundamentals. For example, when we speak about the existence of God. When you speak about and the evidences and behind the existence of God, it is based on conviction. It is based rationally and also textually, because evidences we base on the Quran and the Sunnah, and likewise any rational evidences, and all these evidences are based on solid evidences that bring about conviction, and all things are related to the attributes of Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. For example, we say God cannot have a beginning.
Yeah.
God cannot have an ending. What if a person say God has a beginning? Imam Sanusi addressed this. You know, some of these things. What happens if you say God has a beginning? Then he said that it will lead to infinite regression. Infinite regression, and it is impossible. Infinite regression, and it is impossible. So God cannot have a beginning. So he what you call it, being pre-eternal and for God, and it is necessary. It's necessary. Likewise, any pertaining to the oneness of God. Why God and he cannot be more than one?
I think
it will lead what you call it is impossible.
Yeah.
So our scholars and he came out with Burhanu Tamano. They call it this concept of evidences and that speaks about why God and he must be necessarily one. And all this and are based on evidences and it are solid.
I think one important part was that what I think the theme of what you're mentioning here is that none of our belief system is based on like just faith like that.
No.
Everything.
Yeah, this is the beauty of Islam.
Yeah, everything that we base on, we can prove it rationally,
Yes.
logically, and so that if a person feels like like religion is like just another like faith jumping, kind of stuff that we have no.
Actually, with this approach, right? With this approach, with Islam full of evidence in this kind of manner and concept, right? I think a person should not have doubt. Like just now you mentioned.
Yeah.
If that person have doubt, right?
Yeah.
He have something wrong with him.
Yeah. But also sometimes I think doubt can be good because I think doubt can be a source of conviction.
Yes,
A person, for
correct.
example, I have doubt, and then I want to sincerely find the answer. Kan? And then I go and meet. I take initiative to learn. That doubt can be a real source of conviction of
Yeah,
that.
true. To say the truth lah.
Yeah. And make sure that your doubt is not because you macam like you want to pretend as though you are smart and like something like that lah. It has to be to learn lah. To gain knowledge. Yeah.
Talking about all this, right, Ustaz, I think we know that a person with a lot of doubts, definitely they cannot refer to internet in terms of this kind of answer, right, Ustaz?
Yeah.
Definitely there must be proper manhaj or proper delivery acceptance in terms of this kind of knowledge. So to all our viewers and our listeners out there, I would like to summarize a bit on our episode for today. Actually, Alhamdulillah, we did mention on we did summarize on the part we did go deep on the part of manhaj, where Ustaz mentioned that for beginners, I think it's best for them to look into the books of Imam Sanusi.
Yeah.
Especially starting from Kitab Hafidah, leading up to Sugra and also and leading up to Barahin.
Yeah.
And the next, Al-Fadil Ustaz mentioned about Kitab Muqaddimat by Imam Sanusi.
Yeah.
Where this book is a source of
It's an introduction.
Introduction, not just introduction, is the gate opener.
Yeah.
For them to embark on going deeper into the knowledge of Aqeedah. And also, Ustaz also highlight for a person to understand logic before he or she go deep on knowledge itself, because logic is the base for all knowledge.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot to summarize here.
There's a lot to summarize, but I think the key points.
The key points lah. I mean, you all can have this takeaway, and then with this takeaway, maybe you can go and refer to our articles and also our episodes.
Yeah.
So talking about Kitab Hafidah, just now when Barak mentioned to Al-Fadil Ustaz, what is the key? What is so attractive about the books of Imam Sanusi?
The main gist.
So Ustaz mentioned about Imam Sanusi, highlight on the two elements, which is the obligations and also the evidence. So you separate it to two elements where it helps learners understand in the most appropriate manner and in accepted level.
I think
So also Ustaz also just now mentioned about kalam cosmological evidence. It's so hard for me to pronounce this, bro. Okay, but I'm trying my best. And also Ustaz highlight on
That's a lot of points, Mr. Indra.
Also Ustaz highlight on the point where scholars simplify the knowledge of Aqeedah. So and they do not create nor innovate the knowledge itself. So that is one thing that all our viewers and our listeners should take that point closely to them, so at least we know, right, the gist of it, of what Aqeedah is all about. And the book of Imam Sanusi is still relevant in our modern times, like just now when Ustaz mentioned. So I think this is also one of the key factors from this episode. And last but not least, Barahin is the level where a person should stoop to.
Should be the foundation, like bare, like minimum.
So the level like where they can reach and say that, okay, say master Qasidah, not say master Aqeedah. I just want to say Qasidah, sorry. just want to master the Aqeedah. Inshallah, Ustaz, I think we should bring some munshid here, Ustaz.
Nanti tak boleh like proper question nanti lain.
So to master Aqeedah, I think at least the beginning stage is Barahin lah, like Ustaz mentioned just now,
to give a strong foundation.
So Alhamdulillah, these are the points that I managed.
The books that came after Barahin are considered to be the intermediate. and then the advanced, the intermediate books that a lot of our scholars emphasize. For example, the books of Al-Imam Ghazali. Al-Imam Ghazali, and he got the book Al-Iqtisad fil I'tiqad. This is the book that is learned before the commentary of Nasafiyah. And Kitab Al-Imam Nasafi is important. I mean, it's a bit is an advanced one. But the basic books that is important is what I mentioned up to Barahin. Then the rest, the rest of the books, like the books of Imam Ghazali and the books of Imam Nasafi comes in after that.
I think tonight we have a very blessful, very blessed episode, bro.
Yeah,
seriously.
mashallah.
What do you think, bro?
Yeah, definitely. I enjoyed it a lot. Like definitely, like finding how this is more than just another subject.
Exactly, it's a journey.
It's so many things involved in one. It's like to learn Aqeedah is basically learning how to almost be like a sane human being, because you have to think properly.
Yeah, man.
You cannot be emotional. You have to make sure you
have to be rational.
You have
to be rational.
Yeah, and it's a whole experience. I think Aqeedah gives you the proper foundation of how to live life with purpose and stuff like that.
MashaAllah.
Thank you, Ustaz, so much.
MashaAllah. I think tonight, this episode we have covered on the part of Manhaj
and your points writing very, very, very well, very good. I thought you was not going to stop, Ustaz.
I try my best.
I haven't covered any on the point that you actually you mentioned. Just to mention this and before we end. About the challenges that we live today.
Yeah.
Because I was just speaking about the protection.
Yes,
the protection part.
yes.
And then another challenge is to how to explain. This is the challenge. Once you are convinced, and you have a strong foundation, alhamdulillah, you will save yourself. You will not be influenced. But another challenge is how you approach, meaning how you explain. And for example, certain ideologies. So when a person asks you a question, for example, is this correct or not correct? If you say it is not correct, nowadays people will ask you why, why it's not correct, and if you go back into the Islamic tradition, why Islam say this is not correct, and so on and so forth. So this is another set of challenges. So the way I look at it, these are the two things.
Maybe that can be discussed on a very specific episode, Ustaz.
Maybe
for sure.
Approach.
I think every single thing that we discussed today can be broken down into one topic by itself, and then we just boom, bro. Really.
But talking about just now when Ustaz mentioned that how to relay the message, have you been challenged, Mubarak, on this
I have
aspect?
personally I have, and I
it's very intimidating.
It's very interesting. First thing interesting because why? Then you see how people think.
Yeah, really.
Like you see how some people for example, like non-people who have no religious background, how they look at life. It's very interesting. How and then you see why they think like that, and then for example, you have Muslim friends who get influenced by liberal ideas and how they see the world. You see all of these different ideas, and so it's very interesting, and sometimes I realize that sometimes they don't even know. They don't even know they're believing in a certain way. It's so subtle.
Exactly.
So subtle, and you don't even realize it. So
That's why
it's so important.
That's why this topic has to be on a specific episode.
Man.
Definitely, Ustaz. Inshallah, because this is something that we hold close to, right? So I think inshallah, for our viewers and listeners out there, thank you so much for listening to our podcast, and we would like to thank Al-Fadhil Al-Mukarram Ustaz Anwar Hussein,
Alhamdulillah,
for all your sharing and your guidance, ya Saidi.
Thank you, Ustaz.
Thank you very much for making this episode possible. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah make this episodes blessed and episode.
Ameen.
MashaAllah. Becomes any reason inshallah where we are able to benefit and others also can benefit as well.
Ameen. MashaAllah. So with that, signing off from Coffee with Ustaz, I'm your host Indra Sahib.
I'm Mubarak Shah.
See you on the next episode. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi.